The first video I posted in 2024 was the most requested song I'd had of all time. That record has now been shattered. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Low End University. Rich Kids on LSD might be the funniest band name I've heard in some time. I had to look up the backstory, and I'm reading an interview with vocalist Jason Sears from 2002 where he said a friend told him, quote unquote, "Ha, those kids will never be anything. They're just a bunch of rich kids on LSD, man." And he went on to say that the first party they played, we didn't have a name for the band. We threw it on the flyer, and it just stuck. And I feel like I've heard a lot of bands who have haphazardly named their group that way. But as I said, this has been one of the top requested tracks, and I take it really seriously when another great bass player like Brian Robinson messaged me and encouraged me to check it out. But this is from their fourth studio album, Riches to Rags, which is also a funny name, released in 1994. So let's get to it. I'm excited to check it out and very intrigued. So here we go. Betrayed by Rich Kids on LSD. You guys.
Betray! Feelings of rejection, no more hopes of misconception, just a bullet in my head and in my heart. Promises you made, friendship lost along the way. It's missing half life, deception from the start. A future in your hands was like a start of all your plans. We had our dreams, high hopes, we trusted you. But a decision.
This has like a heavy metal kind of thing going on. I heard those like harmonized guitars. And I have to say, I'm just going to give you guys the credit again because I feel like the last few songs I've done, it's just started out right in your face with meat and potatoes, bass riff or something crazy. Like, you guys know how to pick them. I'm going to keep saying that. And your recommendations have been extremely trustworthy. I want to go back and hear that bass intro. I thought I read that bass player Joe Raposo, if I'm saying it right, that he was a finger player. I could have read that wrong, but that sounds like a pick to me. I didn't do a ton of research on him specifically because I don't look up videos or anything before I do this. But I want to go back and hear that. Sound like we're in G minor, going up really high up here into the second octave. A lot of interesting syncopated rhythms going on, and it just was a very clean tone in terms of just I could hear every note really popping out. I turned my in-ears up a little more. I want to hear the nuances. So let's go back. That's so clean. I heard. So we're kind of going up here to B flat, E flat, just dun 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 dun, digga 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 digga. That's just really clean technique. I can just hear it. It's mixed so well. Kind of interested to hear where it goes, but that's really cool phrasing. And I'm not sure if it's implying the chord progression because it came in with some guitars and I heard like some different, really almost thrashy bits, like a real riff going on here. Let's keep going. Kind of has an early Megadeth vibe, like just kind of the phrasing and the accents. Like something right off their first record. You know, when Megadeth got kicked out of Metallica, he wrote a really pissed off first record, and it kind of has this sound. Really interesting. Ooh, that's a cool little part. Yeah, that part. Very thrashy, those harmonized guitars. That's a tricky rhythm there. Dude, I get so much like early Megadeth vibes, like even in the vocals a little bit. And that's a really good thing in my mind because I love those records. I cut my teeth on them. It's just the kind of the way they're accenting the dun 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 dun. I haven't really heard this in some of the songs you recommended yet, but I still hear the punk kind of essence creeping through even past some of these like thrashier things. In the vocals, kind of the way he started, he got a little lower, which kind of reminded me of the Megadeth thing. I'm not going to harp on that reference too much, but it was just a really cool similarity I hear. And again, there's just so much variety you guys are recommending me, but it all comes back to just the core of the punk movement. There's so many different takes on it. This is an interesting one where NoFX was the more, polished. I keep saying that. I'm sorry, it's not a thing. It's just kind of it's more smarty pants chord progressions, and this had just like a whole metal kind of I really dig it. That's cool. Ooh, back to the bass. Love that little tag he did. I will never be able to get this phrasing on a first listen exactly right, but I just like how it's dancing very syncopated between where the chords and hits are. There's not like a chord progression for me to latch onto. It's more of just like a really complex riff. Like these guys have some chops. I just smile and I hear those guitars go in harmony. It's epic. We might have to do some Garth Brooks songs for a while. These are kicking my ass trying to figure out the riffs. This is up my alley. I would love to actually kind of sit down, go back after this video and look up that riff. It's just a really cool, the phrasing is really good. And I just like that pick tone just cutting through. It doesn't get lost in the mix. And that's one of my favorite things about just these punk songs in general. The bass never gets lost. It's not like, is the bass player there? Some songs you hear, you're like, I guess there's bass. Like it's just kind of part of the mix, like in the background. No, this is like up front, like boom. You are not going to forget I'm here. I'm the bass player. Every note is cutting through. That's just been one of my favorite things between all these songs. Okay, we're going like in an out of key note there. Sounds like you went to that E natural. Yeah. So we've been largely around G minor. And they're throwing those out of key notes in there just down a half step, which F natural's in the key. That's the 7 in G minor, but he goes down a half step from that to E natural. And that's what kind of is giving me those heavy metal vibes, the tendency to just do some of those half steps in and out of the key that gives it a little bit of tension. And that's just really apparent. I've heard that motif crop up a few times so far. Number 2. That's cool. So we went up higher. It almost sounds like an iteration of that first bass part, brought up an octave, still kind of in that G minor scale pattern. Something kind of just shreddy like that. That was another cool, intricate thing. That's just, I want to figure out all the little notes going on there. It's such a neat, go back a little bit more. Wow.
There comes a time in all our lives when quickly we must learn from our mistakes. Not knowing why we made them is the outcomes of the feelings they create. Whether it's sadness, loss of trust, death, pain, forgiveness, love, joy, sex, happiness, or fate, it's one of these, the biggest one that I really hate.
The way that fits into the drum grooves, really interesting. It's kind of like the accents the drums are hitting. It's like they don't line up with that bass part really. A couple times, a couple notes here and there, I'm really just zooming in, but it's kind of like a rhythmic discombobulation there. And it's kind of a different feel than the intro as well. This has I don't want to say it's not a shuffle, but it kind of has a bounce to it, whereas the earlier part of the song was straightforward. One more time, I want to hear that bass riff because I'm really captivated by it, because it just sounds like something I just want to learn real quick. Sounds like he went down to that F. I would largely believe he's in this position right here because all those notes I'm hearing are accessible. You can go down to that F, kind of below the root, down to the D, the E flat, and the F. Sounds like there's a little tag on that riff there. Right there. It's really cool.
There comes a time in all our lives when quickly we must learn from our mistakes.
Get down.
Not knowing why we made them, it's the outcomes and the feelings they create. Whether it's sadness, loss of trust, death, pain, forgiveness, love, joy, sex, happiness, or fate, it's one of these, the biggest one that I really hate. It's the feeling you get when a trust so deep and trust between friends has been broken and you know you got played. It's that feeling that you think.
That's some lead bass. I'm here for it. I thought when it kind of kicked into that riff, like the guitars dropped down lower, we're more around a riff here, I thought the bass would go down and just kind of join it. You know, this part typically when it drops out, everything drops out and you have a little bass break. It's like, oh, here I am, the bass player, doing a little break, and then it's like, okay, I'm done. That my 15 seconds are up. Go back down, you join in, you support the song in the lower octave, but he's writing in that same range. He's arguably in the same octave, or even higher than the guitar part at sometimes, which is just a really kind of ballsy composition thing. It's like the guitars kind of lack that bottom end because he's not down there. Of course, the guitars, the EQ, they have some low end on them, which is nice. It's kind of that more woofier guitar sound. You kind of hear the palm mutes and the chugs. But he didn't abandon that top lead part to go down and support them. He's staying up there. Yeah. Stay up there. Do your lead thing. I'm here for it. Right here. See, I thought he'd be down there. Nope. Wow. I feel like I'm 3 for 3 in reading a band name on the cue that I've put in my schedule. Like last week, it was the Violent Femmes. You know, I kind of just come up with this own association in my head of what I think it will sound like. And they were completely different. Nothing like I expected. This is the same thing. You know, I saw the picture Googling, you know, when I Google these bands, I go to their Wikipedia page first. I find a few interesting tidbits. I don't read too far, you know, and you see these images on the side where they have like really crazy music video thumbnails. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be crazy. And then you hear it and I'm like, wow, this is really not what I expected. And the Rich Kids on LSD made me think it was just going to be some crazy, like over the top. This wasn't over the top in the way I thought it would be. This was very musical, very orchestrated, nice riffs, great phrasing. I couldn't figure out that riff. In fact, I want to go back and kind of learn that little intro because it's really cool. And then he kind of did an iteration or a reprise on that bass intro later that kind of closed the song where he went up higher with a little more shred thrown in. And the early Megadeth thing is kind of what it reminds me of, just a little bit in the production, a little bit in the drumming, and honestly, in a few places, the vocals. And as a huge Megadeth fan, I worked with Dave Mustaine personally on a couple songs a couple years ago. I have a huge admiration for Megadeth. That's a really big compliment coming from me. And I just thought this might be more of that Operation Ivy kind of Fugazi production where it was really roomy and garagey, but this actually had, I don't want to say polished, but it had a nice production to it, like really well produced. I could hear everything really well. Great tones, and that bass tone just never left the spotlight. I could hear it clear as day. So if he was as young as you guys say, and I might have my chronology wrong, maybe he joined the band at 17, but nonetheless, I imagine they were pretty young. Hell of a bass player. And again, Brian Robinson, who I massively respect now after hearing a Wilhelm Scream, recommended him. You know that's really important. And I have a note here as well that says, Rich Kids on LSD influenced Fat Mike in a lot of ways. I've seen that comment from you guys as well. But thank you guys for hanging out with me. I have blocked out on my list as well. I usually don't do the same artist twice. I know I did that with NoFX, but in an effort to get to all of your requests, I'm going to just stick to one artist per song for a while. So if there's a double request like that, I might do it over on my Patreon, which you can find here. I'm going to do blocked out there later this week. So look out for it. Make sure you like and subscribe to my channel. It really means a lot, and your support and hanging out with me is always appreciated. I love you all so much. Cheers. We'll see you next time.